I will call to order the meeting of our Common Council for Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. We have 10 members in the room and 11 members in Civic Court. We do have one member, Alder Jim Hutchison from District.
Very well. Thank you, Clerk. Now please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for an invocation offered by Alder Morgan. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alder Morgan.
If everyone would like to sit down, you may. I've been wrestling for the last week trying to figure out what prayer or what I might like to say about serving our citizens of Green Bay and our communities and that. And every time I looked at a prayer, it was just quite wasn't right. And I thought, well, last time we talked or we were together, I mentioned Jackie Robinson's statement about how the most important thing you can do in life is how you affect other people. And I started thinking, and I got an email Saturday telling me that my former boss, my former friend, has passed away. So I started thinking about it. This guy was the epitome of serving people, not only just Green Bay, Brown County, the state of Wisconsin, and our country. So I'm just going to read a little bit about Tom Hintz. Tom Hintz, 82 of Green Bay, passed away this past Saturday, May 3rd, at his home after a brief battle with ALS. He was born in 1942 in Merrill, Wisconsin. He graduated from Merrill High School in 1960, after which he served in the U.S. Army from 1960 to 1963. He spent a year and a half in Vietnam and Thailand. After his time in the service, he moved to Green Bay, and among other things, he worked as an usher for the Green Bay Packer games. It was here that he befriended a Green Bay police officer who convinced him to pursue a career in law enforcement. He started at the Green Bay Police Department in 1966 as a patrol officer. He moved through the ranks and became the deputy chief of detectives, and eventually he was the assistant police chief. In 1997, after 31 years, several people convinced him that he should do some things to help some of us that were in the Brown County Sheriff's Department. And he did an unusual thing, as he actually ran as a write-in to get onto the ballot and won the election that year. I was lucky enough to work under Tom for 6 years. He was a great leader. He taught us how to treat people properly. He respected his officers and treated them properly, and was one of the better sheriffs I've worked with. After his retirement, he decided to try something else, and he ran and became Brown County's executive. Held that position for a while. In between in retirement, he was a director of security and safety at Northeast Wisconsin Technical College and an adjutant instructor. And I've had numerous people tell me how much he touched them as they studied and tried to further their life so that they could serve our citizens. He then got involved in several things through Brown County, and that some of his favorite things were Golden House. He was really involved in family violence. He was on advisory board for the Hmong Center. He was emeritus board member of the New Community Shelter. He served on the boards of the NWTC Foundation, the Bay Area Community Council, the Green Bay Chamber of Commerce. He founded the Crime Prevention Foundation of Brown County. And one of the most important ones I keep hearing over and over is from our veterans, when he helped start our Veterans Court in Brown County, which helped a lot of them when they had issues coming back from their battles. He, through all these years, he still was a busy person in the community. He loved to golf. He loved competing with his wife, Ursula, in cribbage. The family always had great cookouts and things. And I said, I want to show this is what we should all hope that we can do someday, is give back to our community in a way as this great man has done. Thank you.
Thanks so much for those comments, Alder. I would ask for a moment of silence from our council and from our attendees. Thank you. Entertain a motion on approval of the minutes. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens. Seconded by Alder Agnes, approve the minutes from our April 15th meeting. Any changes there? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it, the minutes are approved. Approval of the agenda. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet and seconded by Alder DeLee. Any amendments here? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it, and that agenda has been approved. Report by the mayor. Just really wanted to briefly echo Alder Morgan's comments. Tom's life, I think, was a prayer. So I think that was a really fitting invocation for our city council. Couldn't have asked for a better leader for this community in all the capacities that Alder Morgan talked about, but just also as a citizen. After he was done serving in elective office, he never stopped thinking about what he could do for this community. So, yeah, great example to all of us. When I was doing some reading in the Press Gazette archives after Tom's passing, and one thing though that I did discover, which was new to me, not about Tom but about Alder Morgan, is that he actually ran for sheriff himself back in 1992, and that was not that surprising to me. But what was truly shocking and scandalizing was that Mr. Morgan ran as a Democrat. So I don't know if that many people remember that, but that was intriguing to me. Next, just want to touch on Alder Weary's esteemed service to the city of Green Bay. Right? Always nonpartisan. But we touched on this when you made your announcement. But again, want to just thank you for your years committed to the city. Probably one of our longest tenured alders. I don't know if we've kept score on all of that, but right. No, I'm not saying you're the longest tenured, but you've got to be up there. And that doesn't say everything, but it says a lot. Right. I think there are a lot of people within your district who probably had disagreements on this, that, or the other thing, but really recognized your commitment to them as Alder and all the services that you provided to them. And so for me, that's the thing that I'll probably remember you most for, is just the commitment that you demonstrated to your residents, which I think has been a great example to us all. So appreciate that, and congratulations, and best of luck. You know where to find us. On YouTube, in person. So hopefully you'll continue to visit with us. Lastly, just wanted to, we had a press conference with our Conservation Corps to kick things off before our meeting. And so just want to ask council for your support of that program. And I think Alder Presley has obviously worked on an amendment to at least allow for Corps members to serve out their term of service. So hoping that we'll get some support for that this evening. With that, we'll move along to announcements from council. You want to go first or last? All right. Alder Weary.
We'll go first and last. Oh. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate the kind words. I guess it's my last council meeting. I'm fortunate in some respect because a lot of people, you lose an election and you don't get a last council meeting. So I feel like I need to speak for a lot of people here, but I only have 10 pages, so it shouldn't take too long.
It's warm in here.
Yeah, it is warm in here. I was going to say indulge my long-windedness, but I never asked permission before anyway to talk. So it's true. I asked myself, what can I say that's meaningful, heartfelt, sincere, yet not too long that it induces sleep? Because Alderman Stoyer knew how to put people to sleep with his speeches, and I don't want to do that. Nobody wants that. Love you, Mark. Okay. I just want to say thank you to 4 different groups. One's the residents of District 8. You entrusted me since 2002, minus a 2-year sabbatical for the wonderful Jesse Burnett, who's a good man and a good friend. You entrusted me with your concerns, worries, questions, and most importantly, your friendship. You elected some young, naive mailman who simply believed in listening to people, customer service with yearly newsletters, emails, endless follow-ups, and most importantly, trying his damnedest to get issues resolved. I hope I repaid your confidence. City staff, or what do I say here, Cheryl? All right, I even have Cheryl in parentheses. Turn to Cheryl. I put hardworking and underappreciated, honestly. I rode you sometimes, okay, a lot of times, but mostly because I'm impatient. I have little patience and I want things done now. And I hate red tape and I hate the reasons that we've always done it this way. And so I've always looked for a way to get it done. So it was nothing personal. You good folks are the lifeblood of the city. And you know that, and I know that. So thank you. Council members and mayors, I've served with so many people. I was going to put unique characters, but there are, just look around me. Every 2 years, the council takes on a new personality, and that was fun to watch. Some I love the personality, some not so much, but they all were a great adventure in learning how to work together. Honestly, you have to learn new personalities, argue and debate ideas and a vision for our city here, and then be friends and neighbors out there. And you can do it. Some people choose not to, but you can, because we're all neighbors. Fight like heck in here, and be friends outside. And I served with mayors Jaden, Schmidt, and Genrich. I'll never forget the first time I think I said Genrich. You said Genrich. I honestly didn't even know. So
Still happens. It's okay.
it just was the way it's spelled. So I think I worked with and pissed off each of them with great equality. So that's all I'm saying. The last one's family, of course. Slings and arrows. Why all of us have signed up for the praise, ridicule, and derision that comes with being elected. Our families didn't. Right. So I am so grateful and fortunate to have the best family point. My stoicism are breaking down here, and that doesn't happen very often. Okay. To have the best family anyone could ask for. My mom and dad are amazing people. My dad, Al, passed, but my mom, Pat's here. She's now living with me. She's one of the nicest, kindest people you'll ever meet, honestly. My college kids, Hannah is on Zoom, I believe, and Calvin's here. She's off at college in Indiana. They were born while I was in office, and it's all they've ever known. I used to bring them to City Hall and bring them around to the different departments and say hi to everybody. And eventually, they knew I would always get sidetracked talking about city stuff, and they got a little tired of that. And when I asked them in later years, they'd say, "Well, are you gonna talk a lot?" I'm like, "Well, probably." So, they delivered so many election flyers and newsletters. They qualify as pros, so I might rent them out to candidates next year. I have a trained crew, so I'll be the broker. Calvin, sorry. My father-in-law, John Lefebvre, used to help, and he's now passed as well. Good man, good father-in-law. My mother-in-law, Kathy Lefebvre, who I had the unusual chance to serve on this council with. She gave me so many opportunities to tell mother-in-law jokes in public. It was a true pleasure. But seriously, she's a fine lady and a great mother-in-law. Who's left? Oh, yeah. Yep. My wife, Renee. She was always gung-ho and helpful and had to man the fort all the times I was away at meetings or with residents. Even when MS took some of her independence, she did not want me to quit. Renee, you're not a quitter, and you deserve more attention now after all the years of taking the back seat. So thank you to Rayanne and her crew for being such great caregivers. When I am working or gone, you are truly a blessing to our family. So I'm just gonna take it. Thanks for indulging me there. So my fellow council members, Mr. Mayor, work hard at serving, listen, speak your mind, smile, and have fun because life is truly too short. Thanks. I have 1,000 crumpled up pieces of paper.
I believe it. Anyone else on announcements? Mr. Stevens.
All right, Chris. Well, you talked about everybody and everybody that has helped you. Now we're going to talk about you. We're all here to do a job, but tonight we're also here to recognize a remarkable alderman, Chris. Someone whose dedicated leadership and genuine have left an incredible mark in our community. Chris, your service has been nothing short of extraordinary as council president and vice president. In the past, you guided the council with wisdom. And through your years of service from 2002 to 2012, and then again from 2013 to present day, your commitment never wavered. But beyond public service, your heart has always been with the people, whether forming Friends of Colburn Pool to raise an incredible $1 million to rebuild an Olympic-sized pool, or leading efforts to restore Fisk Park into an aquatic park. You have shown us what truly community leadership looks like. You saw a need, stepped up, and made something lasting for future generations. Your dedication extends far beyond city projects. As a former club master, a referee, a member of the Knights Club, and a St. Angus parish, your service touches lives in ways both big and small. Your kindness, generosity, and tireless work earned you the City Builder Award in 2006, and rightly so. You are very definition of a builder, not just of structures, but of connections of community and hope. And of course, while we celebrate all you've given, we also know you wouldn't be the person you are without your wonderful family, Renee, Hannah, and Kelvin, who have supported you every step of the way. So Chris, before I conclude my comments, I have one thing I'd like you to remember. Let me call the question. Do you get a last minute comment on this? But anyway, on a serious note, Chris, thank you. Thank you for your leadership, your friendship, your vision, your service, and the unwavering belief in the power of community. Green Bay is better because of you, and we will all be grateful. So once again, if we could do another round of applause.
Thanks, Alder. Any other announcements? Comments? Alder Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. I have to confirm, Alder Weary, and no offense, Mr. Mark Stoyer, but for anybody who knows, our meetings are published on YouTube. And, I rewatch all the committee meetings and I usually watch them at 1.5 times the speed. You can get through them a little faster. And I think back to when Director Neil Steckschulte was here, and you'd have to dial it down to 0.5 to understand him because he talks so fast. But when Mark spoke, it was like banging your screen thinking, is this thing broke? Because it's like back to normal speed. But, but Mark, we miss you. We really do. I think there's few people that you can find that you might disagree with and yet would find really to not be disagreeable. And I think that's Chris Weary. And, he didn't win that district time and time again, other than the sabbatical, by accident. And I think that was the case with some other alders who have served here in the past before. And when you're around long enough, inevitably controversy will surround you. And I think it's hard to say that certainly Chris wasn't good at poking the bear from time to time, and really expressing, I guess, what was on his mind for better or for worse. But I think at the end of the day, it's hard to overlook as well the sincerity of why it is that you're choosing to make this decision. And of course, you made that very clear, and I think that's very admirable. And not everybody does that in politics, because sometimes you become married to the position and you forget why it is that you ran in the first place. And you're putting your family first and recognizing that the residents have become a part of who you are, but your family is still first at the end of the day. And I think, like I said, that's a very noble reason to step back from any type of passion that you love. And I looked back at our old messages, and you may not remember this, but this was before I chose to run. And I was with a group of individuals who were just looking for quality people to run for public office. And you had texted me and said, hey, I heard some whispers. you thought that I was recruiting someone to run against you. And of course I said, hey, I'm just recruiting people to run for office at any level. What I didn't tell you at the time is that, yeah, I was recruiting someone to run against you. But I will say, and this is what I admire, when you get to this table and you get to know your other alders as peers. And I think it was really easy to look at maybe the controversies, right, at the real surface level, and not really dig deep and dig past those things and understand the character of somebody and what they do so well. And you said in that message, you love what you do and you love serving the residents of your district. And I think that that really came through. And that's something that I learned about you, having had this opportunity to serve with you for the last 7 years. So thank you what you've done for your district, but what you've done for the city. Few people have ever been more thoughtful, well-studied, and ready to discuss an issue than you. And we appreciate that. And I do want to say one more thing, Mayor, and I can't believe this has escaped everyone so far. But are you guys freaking kidding me? 600,000 people that showed up for the NFL draft. Everybody deserves a round of applause for that.
Absolutely.
And there were a lot of things that occurred that had to make that happen. Of course, we got some of those folks in the back of the room. I think of PD and the fire department, Parks Department, who did a remarkable job, Public Works, doing a lot of things with street closures. I'm certainly not meaning to leave anybody out, but I know that was an all hands on deck type of experience. And when you see the NFL just giddy about the job that Green Bay did on national television, that's something everybody deserves to pat themselves on the back, because we all had a role in making that happen. So congratulations.
Absolutely. Well said. Any other comments? Alderac.
I promise I'll keep it short because everybody else was so eloquent that, I say ditto to what they have said, but, it's been an honor and a privilege working with you, Chris. I'm, sad that you're leaving. I've been honored to be on, not just city council, but parks and improvement and services for this last 3 years with Chris. And I've really appreciated, the friendship and, the mentoring that you've shown, and the ribbing as well. Well, yeah, he used to call me a one-termer during my first term, and then I got reelected, so he had to stop saying that. Um, so he just said it. That's why I'm saying it. But anyway, we joke. Although I am a little bit older, not much older than him, but I've said to him that I want to be him when I grow up. So, thank you, Chris, or Alder Weary.
We'll let it slide tonight. Any other, just tonight? Any other alders with announcements?
Oh.
Alder Presley.
I'll speak to Alder Weary as well. Oh, yes. Well, I've only been on council for a year, but Alder Weary was one of the first people to call me when I was elected. We don't agree on a lot of things, but neither of us have run as a Democrat. So technically true. But yeah, one of the things he told me in that phone call was that we're going to agree on 95% of what happens here. And what you said to other people, when we're done with council, we can still be kind to each other. We can still be civil, and you've always been civil to me. I think you called me newbie once, but it's because I called you obstinate. And that's fine. But he still picks up my calls when I have questions about things I need advice on something coming to council. Has been the model of leadership in our committees. So yeah, I'm grateful for what I've learned from you, and it's been a pleasure to serve with you. And I also want to say there was one time, and I'm glad you were on Zoom, but you said, I agree with Alder Presley. And I clipped that clip and I repeat it, and it wakes me up in the morning. It's my alarm. So I agree with Alder Presley, and it's a nightmare. But thank you for your years.
Thanks, Alder. Any other announcements? Right. With that, we'll move along to ordinance and second reading for adoption. Motion to suspend the rules made by Alder Prophet to take up these items with one roll call vote. Is there a second for that? Seconded by Alder Hinkfist. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have, the rules are suspended. Motion to adopt made by Alder Presley, seconded by Alder Prophet. Discussion here. Seeing none, we will use the board.
Mabo,
That is adopted 11-0. On to report of the Improvement and Services Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder DeLee and seconded by Alder Eck. Items here to be handled separately. Hearing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Protection and Policy Committee granting operator licenses. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Prophet. Any abstentions or names to be handled separately? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Plan Commission. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet and seconded by Alder Hinkfist. Items here to be handled separately. Item 4. Any others? Don't have to. Okay. All right, so item 4 will be handled separately. All in favor of approving the remainder of that report will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of item 4. Any wishes here? Alder Grant?
I pulled it. Can I
Yeah.
please speak? I want to bear with me. I want to kind of go over the PUD really quick because I think there's been a lot of confusion. And I think we can clear a lot of things up right away. So, before we open the floor, I want to take a moment to clarify the PUD before us and what it actually includes. After speaking with several residents, it's clear that there's some confusion. The primary purpose of the PUD is to allow the applicant to accept a grant they were awarded, which would fund the installation of an additional high tunnel on their property. When the applicant initially brought this idea to the city, they were asked to outline their ideal long-term vision, what they would do for funding if funding weren't a constraint. City staff wanted to understand the full scope of their aspirations. After reviewing that broader vision, staff determined that certain elements didn't align with the current zoning or the character of the surrounding area. That process led to a more focused and revised PUD proposal in which we are considering tonight. The PUD includes up to 3 greenhouses, up to 3 high tunnels, a detached garage, farm stand, which would require it to be placed in the driveway away from the road, and they would be allowed to continue their youth day camp with a maximum of 20 participants. Because of these asks, they are also being required to add an ADA accessible bathroom, 5 parking spots, and widening of their driveway. To be clear, this PUD does not include a restaurant or an assembly hall. It does not promise or propose tiny homes, and it does not rezone the property to commercial. If the applicants ever wanted to pursue any of those uses in the future, they would need to submit a new PUD request, subject to full review and approval. This PUD also does not affect their existing approved animal licenses in any way. It's worth noting that R1 residents are already permitted to operate in-home daycares with proper state licensing. The only reason short-term rentals are mentioned in this is because under current regulations, any homeowner can pursue that option. And they are not proposing to rent out their home and have no intentions of doing so. Lastly, denying this PUD would not prevent them from continuing to grow gardens on their property. The Valentines are here tonight and can elaborate, but their first phase is the high tunnel. When we spoke last night after the driveway and the ADA accessible bathroom, their next goal would be a detached garage for more storage, but that could be down the line due to funding. I want to ensure everyone that the Valentines have heard the concerns raised by their neighbors and are actively working to address them. Just yesterday, our inspections department met with them to review what needs to be done to bring everything up to code. I believe this PUD helps resolve many of the concerns that were voiced at the Plan Commission meeting. For example, relocating the farm stand from the edge of Church Road to their driveway, along with the addition of designated parking spot, will eliminate the need for cars to pull over on the narrow road, improving both safety and traffic flow. In addition, by widening their driveway and providing 4 parking spaces, the Valentines have committed to using that area for summer camp drop-off and pickup. This will again reduce congestion and increase safety along Church Road. They've also shared with me the new high tunnel will offer enclosed storage space, allowing them to move some of their items out from the yard into a more appropriate location. I do want to offer up some amendments after we open the floor to discuss because I want an opportunity for the residents to speak. But I do want to state them now so that we can have some discussion and they can voice their opinions. After speaking to the Valentines, they feel the deadline for the driveway is obtainable. I would like to offer them 2 years to install a more permanent ADA bathroom, but allowing them a porta potty in the meantime. They have agreed to make this porta potty hidden, not visible from either roadway. I would also like to allow them the ability to apply for temporary use permits in order to host events for the public outside of the summer camp. The Valentines have stated all parking for these events would be on their property, not the road. Staff did advise us as a council to discuss how many permits in a year, if we want to cap the amount of participants, or how many that we could deem reasonable for the year. We are also, or sorry, the Valentines prefer 12 per year. Just want to throw that out again so we can get feedback. But I will formally bring those motions forward after we hear from the public. So with that, I would like to motion to open the floor.
Alder Grant makes a motion to open the floor, seconded by Alder Stevens. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The floor is open. We'd invite the applicant to approach first, if interested, and then anyone else from the public. And then if you could just state your name and address for the council.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Valentine at 3026 Nicolay Drive, or for the property in discussion. You have received letters from people before this for the Plan Commission and people who have submitted letters and testimonies about our use of our property, about our teaching. And you've learned that Mark and I are educators, that we work hard to care for our property, and that we value building community. As educators, we are lifelong learners, and this whole process has been a learning opportunity. We have learned to work collaboratively with city planners who have taken our dreams and crafted a plan that we support. We have learned to listen to our neighbors' concerns, and we will work to address them. We have learned about the huge amount of time and effort that our alders put in to support residents in our community. Our plan is to implement these changes in phases, as Alder Grant said. First, we would like to put in the high tunnel this summer, as it will be funded through a time-sensitive grant through NRCS. This structure will offer space for growing, but can also provide needed space to store farm tools and equipment. By next spring, we will work to widen the driveway and make it 2 lanes for better traffic flow, and adding 5 parking spaces by the farm stand just off the driveway. We would also work to build out the ADA restroom outside of our home so that customers, students, and volunteers have a public bathroom. This will be completed within the 2-year timeframe, but hopefully sooner. A garage addition is part of our vision for the property to offer more storage space, but that will be dependent on financing, and we do not have a timeline for that yet. This plan will allow us to continue our agricultural education and our conservation efforts while reducing the traffic concerns and providing some more small farm infrastructure to store our equipment. We are grateful for the work of our city planners and our alder, Jennifer Grant, that they have done to work with us. Our goal is to support the sustainability work that the city of Green Bay has committed to for our community. I do have printed off map of our property that shows the where these structures will be located, if you would like me to pass those down.
Thank you. Any questions for our applicant? Questions? Right. Thanks so much for your testimony.
Thank you.
And then I've got a couple names here. We're using an outdated form, so it's a little unclear if this is the item, but I've got an Ethan Fenlon and a Kendall Blahnik and Gina Blahnik. Feel free to step up.
Hi, my name is Kendall Blahnik and I live at N5680 Henry Court, Luxembourg, Wisconsin. I've known Mrs. Valentine for 4 years. She's my teacher, advisor for State Envirothon, as well as the co-founder of the Green Bay Youth Environmental Committee that we started. Ever since I met Miss Valentine, I've strived to have the passion and dedication that she has to helping the environment. Her and her family's farm has been an influential part in hundreds of people's education on sustainable farming, including mine. There have been so many classes where we walk to her farm to learn about various farming practices or collect wildflower seeds. Some people think that there are better locations for this farm to be. However, if not for the location that it is in now, we would never have had the opportunity to go to her farm because of the fact that it is a walkable distance from Red Smith School. Her farm is in a location which the community can gather to get some local produce and have a good conversation with their neighbor. In regards to the previous conversations about the farm being considered a commercial farm, by no means is this farm commercial because of the fact that they don't use large inputs such as fertilizer, pesticides, or other chemicals. This farm is a center for community-supported agriculture along with educational opportunities and represents sustainable farming better than any other farm I can think of. Please approve the notion for them to get this high tunnel so they can continue their efforts of educating the public on sustainability, protecting natural habitats, and supporting their own family, as well as supporting all local farmers in the goal of becoming a more sustainable world.
My name is Gina Blahnik. I live at N5680 Henry Court, Kendall's mom. She doesn't need me to be up here, and I can't speak as well as she can, but I'm a teacher as well, and I've seen the impact of the Valentine Farm and just want to continue to support that, and that's why I'm here. I also went to a social studies committee meeting today at school, and so just being a part of this process is really valuable to me because I've never done it before, so it feels really good to be here. So thank you for letting us speak.
Thanks so much for your testimony. Any questions for our guests? Right. And then I had this Ethan Fenlon. Is it for this item or another one? 04? Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Anyone else on this item?
Both my wife and I registered online to speak on this item.
Okay, feel free to approach and state your name and address, sir. Sorry about that.
My name is Greg Warner. I live at 24 Remington Road in Green Bay, not Luxembourg. I oppose the requested PUD to both the current and future detrimental impacts to the neighborhood along Nicolay Drive. My wife grew up on Nicolay Drive, and her parents still live there. So we know many of the people who would be directly affected by this request, none of whom think that having commercial type properties in the area or more traffic on Nicolay is a good idea. In evaluating this request, it is instructive to recall what happened about 8 or 9 years ago. At that time, a 17,000 square foot hotel and conference facility was proposed for the former Carlton Inn site on Nicolay Road. That plan was, like the current one, too extensive and entirely inappropriate for a lot in a primarily commercial zone. The plan failed because it was incompatible with the neighborhood. And since then, the lot has been zoned to residential, from commercial to residential. As a result of that rezoning and the redevelopment to the former Eagles Nest site as a municipal boat launch, every single privately owned lot on the entire length of Nicolay Drive from Mahone Creek all the way north to city limits is zoned residential. In this area, commercial properties have become an anachronism. They do not exist and they do not belong, especially if the objective of the Smart Growth Plan to eliminate land use incompatibilities is to be achieved. But make no mistake about it, this request, while technically not to rezone the property at 3026 Nicolay to commercial, is basically about allowing commercial uses of the property. In fact, with the agricultural items being sold, the camps being conducted, the classes being conducted, it is already a business. And so the current request seeks to expand the scope of those business activities. So let's be clear. Don't be tripped up by buzzwords like organic or sustainable or community gardens. This is a business. And the applicants now have a business motive to expand. They have a right to try. And that makes them no worse than Costco or Amazon or Walgreens. But it makes them no better either. In seeking to add a restaurant, production facilities, a meeting hall, and so on, which I understand they have amended things currently, but those could be in the offing in the future. So in trying to do all these sorts of additional business activities, they're trying to increase their revenue streams. But it's very calculated about how they have made this sound like it's all about Mother Earth but in fact, it is just as much about money. In advance of this meeting, I provided a series of facts to members of the Common Council about the ways that this property is already inconsistent with R1 zoning, as well as other sections of the municipal code likely being violated. And for the record, I'd like to state that the Plan Commission meeting of April 28th, that was openly acknowledged. There are farm activities, there are commercial activities on this property. Those should not be occurring under R1 zoning. Besides impermissible activities already being conducted at the property is also not well maintained. People who spoke at the Plan Commission meeting about weeds and unmaintained vegetation and unorganized piles of landscape supplies and tools and equipment strewn about were not wrong. It truly is a mess. In light of this, the applicants should not be rewarded by allowing them to expand their operations. It has already been demonstrated they cannot operate in such a way to comply with zoning and the municipal code. So why trust them to do so in the future by giving them expanded operations? Why start down that slippery slope?
Sir, your 3 minutes have expired, so if you could just conclude for us.
Okay, so accordingly, this request needs to be denied. Please do so. Thank you.
Any questions for our guest? All right, thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Rochelle Warner and I live at 2451 Remington Road in Green Bay. I oppose this request for 3 reasons. First, I believe the site is inadequate for the scope of activities requested. Second, the applicants have not demonstrated that any circumstances beyond their control have changed, and which would provide sufficient reason for them to be allowed to expand their operations. And third, the fundamental fairness of whether this request would be allowed in any other residential district in Green Bay. Let me address each of these. I grew up in Nicolay Drive, as my husband just said, raised on the water. Since Mr. Weary said he likes to have fun, I'd like to have fun too. So raised on the water, where my parents, who are both near 90, still reside. It's a great place, including neighbors who really look out for my parents and who I am proud to call friends. These people don't talk about respecting their neighbors. Their actions just show it. They just do it. As this situation has unfolded, I, like the residents of Nicolay Drive, was very surprised to learn of the vast array of agricultural and commercial activities occurring at 3026 Nicolay. There was a complete breakdown of transparency and enforcement. Residents were respectfully not investigating what was occurring there until they were backed into a corner with this request and forced to figure it out and find out some of these things. Many supporters have talked about the uniqueness of applicants' proposals, but that doesn't really matter. The only thing that really matters is what's allowed under current zoning, which precludes agriculture and business. If the applicants want to engage in these activities, they should do so where other businesses have to go and to find an appropriate site. They should not be allowed to transform a residential property into something that it is not. It is hard to find information about the standards that will be used to evaluate this request. And believe me, we spent a lot of time. But it seems to be very much like a zoning variance. We've been down that path before. And that permission is being rough to exceed, excuse me, is that permission being sought to exceed the activities normally permitted on a property with a given zoning, given zoning. Using that as a guide, an applicant must demonstrate that there has hardship, that is, an unforeseen or unexpected event has occurred as justification for the request. This is not the case for this request. The fact that one of the applicants has quit his job and needs to expand the business for his livelihood is a situation entirely of his own making. It is not to the city to bail them out or the applicants. Finally, I simply ask the question around, would this PUD be allowed on an R1 zone property in Astor Park, Schmidt Park, Fritsch Park, or Royal Pond Preserve? If it would not be allowed in those places, and it should not be, well, then I don't think it should be allowed in Nicolay Drive either. Thank you for your time. Please vote no for PUD.
To your testimony. Any questions? Thank you. Anyone else on this item?
Kathy LaFave, 1731 East Shore Circle. I've lived at my house 54 years. I kind of know the area. I used to travel Nicolay, and I want to remind people that a lot of Nicolay years ago was agricultural. And what happened is that the farmers could no longer support themselves, so they started selling out. And now we have whole neighborhoods moving in, and it's destroying the agricultural area. We need agriculture property. We need it. We're losing it. Someone talked about Costco Net. They're building huge on agriculture land, these huge businesses. Amazon, they're taking over all this property that used to be agriculture. If we don't have agriculture, how are we going to get our food? I completely support them. I think this is a great idea. We need people who are thinking of the future, who are doing things that are good for the earth. And the reason someone had mentioned that they have tools everywhere, well, that's why they're asking for this, so they can store it properly. They want to clean it up. They want it to look nice. They want to do the right thing. And I do support them completely. Thank you.
Your testimony.
Hi, my name is Tyson Tatro. I live at 3410 Church Road, directly across from the Valentines. My living room, when I look out my living room, I get to see the garden. The Valentines are really nice people, great people. If this was a judgment about whether they're good quality, good character, all that kind of stuff, I would say they're awesome. They'd probably win. They care a lot about the environment. They work hard to encourage others to do the same. By living across the street from them, I've been able to see how tirelessly they work to grow food for their family, and I've been in favor of that for years. I've been living in the house since 2003. I thought it's great, right? But unfortunately, over time, their passion has turned from growing food for their family to growing food to sell to others. And in order to do that, they've had to expand their gardens. They built a high tunnel to grow more vegetables. They took everything out of their 2-stall garage that is what you and I would put our cars in, and shovels and all that kind of stuff. All of that stuff came out to put chickens and a pony and goat feeding supplies and all that kind of stuff is now in the garage. They built a shed for their goats. The items that came out of the garage are scattered across the property. And they don't just stay across the property during growing season. They stay across the property all winter long, right? So when I'm looking outside, that's what I see, stuff scattered across the property. So as their business has grown, items needed for the business has continued to grow. They had a little roadside stand for years, selling stuff at will, like you give me a couple bucks for some eggs and, I'm not going to put a price on it. Great. Okay. That roadside stand is now a big shed. The number of animal sheds, kennels, pens, scattered across the property in order to be able to breed and raise goats and store those goats has increased. And it's just getting to the point to where it's very unappealing. I'd like to quote the Valentine's Facebook page post from August 14th, 2024, and quote, "The task he," meaning Mark, "will need support with may include harvesting, weeding, watering, animal care, beekeeping, food processing, and preserving. The post goes on to state also, if you're interested in helping out at a greater capacity this fall and next year's 2025 growing season, we're looking for more help as we have tons of potential for productivity. As outlined in the PUD request, they would like to expand their business by adding 3 high tunnels, 3 greenhouses, and another garage. The expansion would create a lot more work for people to need to maintain that farm. They've already shared that they're not able to independently maintain the work associated with the size of the business as it is currently. Allowing this PUD to pass will only compound that problem. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your testimony. Any questions? Yep.
Hi, my name is Tom Tedford, and I live at 3416 Church Road. I am here today to speak out in opposition to expansion to the Valentine Farm. I'm not going to bore you with any more information. I think you've heard enough from the opponents, accepting that I think, again, this is not to malign the character of the Valentines at all. It's about where they're trying to do this and what they're trying to do it with. In the beginning, we didn't really know that to be in opposition to this, that we had to be complainers all the time. We didn't want to be complainers all the time. So basically, that's why we're here now. The other thing is, why is it that the Valentines should sell their product where they're producing it? Why can't they do it just like all the other vendors do on Wednesdays and Saturdays at the farmers market? Why does it have to be across from our homes where they're selling their produce and anything else they produce? So in the end, I'm just telling you that I'm in opposition for all the same reasons that my other neighbors are in oppositions. Oh, and by the way, I would like to say this, that the guy that just addressed you is also a teacher. And I'd like to tell you that my fiance, where I live right now, she's also a teacher. So please don't enter the teacher card, please. Thank you. Sir.
Hi, Will Peters, 233 North Ashland Avenue, Green Bay, Wisconsin. And I guess I'll just start with, I'm one of the people who responded to the Instagram post when they were looking for volunteers to help out. I thought it was a really great way to introduce fresh, organic, local food into my family's household. So I drive all the way across town. I live on the west side of town. I drive all the way across town, sometimes with my kids as well, because they love helping out, to work their garden and in trade, bring home fresh produce for my family that nourishes them. And I just want to say that I think it's beautiful what they are doing, because the kind of agriculture they are practicing, and let's just be real, this is not commercial farming, like 80 plus acres of land, big old tractors, manure trucks coming in. This is the level of farming that used to support our communities during our grandparents, great-grandparents, and great-great-great-grandparents' age. This is American farming. This is being good stewards with the land around us. I think if folks who are so concerned would spend the time to come and visit the farm, learn what they're trying to do, what they're teaching to students, my children, as well, is not being taught in schools right now. You can't get this education in school unless if your school is fortunate enough to have a 4-H program and your kids decide to think that 4-H is exciting, but not everyone thinks from the get-go that 4-H is exciting. What they're trying to do is help make that connection between our food and our home and our community. And it wasn't too far long ago that this practice was seen in a number of neighborhoods. I grew up on the east side of town, Phasiana Street, so it's right kind of behind East Town Mall. There was a property at the end of Phasiana Street that I remember growing up that was one of the original farmhouses. It was Farmer Joe that lived there. And he still had, in the middle of a residential neighborhood, duplexes, single families, still had a large section of his property that he was growing produce and selling at the end of his driveway. And I thought this was just the neatest thing to be able to walk out of your house down the road to pick up food for your family, fresh eggs. So I can't speak any more highly of what they are doing, not only for their family, but for their neighborhood. And really, as you I'm sure have seen from the public comments that have come in the letters, what they're doing for the entire city in supporting and promoting a healthy relationship with our land, being good stewards of our land, and building community. So I urge you to support this PUD tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony.
Good evening. My name is Tina Smith. I'm at 3509 Spyglass Hill Drive in Green Bay in the Red Smith neighborhood. I've lived there for 20 years and have seen a lot of changes in the neighborhood over that 20 years, a lot of growth, which of course has brought more traffic into the community. And we're going to be seeing more growth that is going to bring even more traffic into the community. But when I look at what the Valentines do, it's worth it. It's a positive thing for our community. I will play the teacher card. I am a teacher. I teach at Red Smith. I have seen our agriculture program grow immensely under Miss Valentine. The kids just love it. And kids that I thought would never have any interest in agricultural farming, a lot of what we would consider our inner city type children who have no experience with it sign up for these classes, and they are so enthusiastic. It's usually their favorite class to go to in the day. Excuse me, I get emotional because I love to see these kids become excited about it. In terms of the cleanliness that was brought up, I can speak for what I see firsthand at our school in terms of how Sarah runs her program, how it is meticulous. Everything is laid out. She has done amazing things at our school, and I feel like that would carry over there. And the reason for the building, it's the expansion, is to help with that. You can only store so much in a garage. So I understand the need for those structures to be built. I just think the education value is immense. And, you know, we talk about, you know, in our government as a whole right now is talking about trade wars and all of that and doing things here in our country. This is what they're doing. They're doing it here at home, eating locally, you know, business locally. However, I really don't see what they're doing as a business. I see it as an expansion of the learning environment to teach us better ways to sustain our environment and our food sources. So kudos to you guys. I approve this, or I am in favor of this. Whatever you call it. I'm getting nervous now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Going once, going twice.
I'm online and would like to speak, but I don't know when.
Somebody online who'd like to speak?
Yes, my name is Kristen Sullivan Metzler. I live at 3067 Nicolay Drive. And I would say at this time, I am opposed to the PUD because I don't feel that all concerns have been adequately addressed. I would like to point out that in and of itself, I am not opposed to what they are doing or why they want to do it. It is more of an issue of where. the location. My primary concern is the traffic. So I understand that day camp is limited to 28 attendees. However, my understanding is that the parking would be for 2 to 5 parking spaces. So if there's 28 attendees that are all being dropped off and picked up at the same time, how would 2 to 5 parking spaces accommodate a potential of 28 cars? Additionally, if the people carpooled and there was 2, that would be 14 cars. Additional concerns about the events. I don't feel that there is adequate parameters about what would constitute the events. So if there's 12 per year, that would average 1 per month. I don't hear about a max attendee. So if they had an event that had 50 people attending, how would parking and traffic be accommodated for that? And also the hours of when that would be. So if there would be late night events, what would be the noise? And again, like really with the traffic, the physical location of this area does not have sidewalks. It does have bike lanes. However, the bike lanes do not have lanes with buffers. There are no traffic lanes or turn lanes or traffic controls. So I don't hear adequate addressment of the traffic and the parking for the volume of what they would be looking to go ahead and do. I also have concern with the totality of the request, as I know that right now it's for 3 greenhouses, 3 high tunnels, a farm stand, detached garage, and a bathroom, which would be a total of an additional 8,950 square feet of building added on to the residential lot. And I do understand that it is 5 acres. That though, combined with the additional approval for camp activity, daycare activity, agriculture, animals, production of plants, pasturing, horticulture, floriculture, aquaponics, and animal and poultry husbandry. I don't see how that can be effectively and safely managed entirely with all of that combined on a 5-acre piece of property. So again, I do not take issue with the activities that the applicants are wishing to pursue in and of themselves. I actually think that they're very admirable. My concern is about the safety of the location of performing those activities, excuse me, in that space. So at this time, with those concerns still remaining, I would like to request denial at this time. Thank you.
All right, thanks for your testimony.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Brown. I live at 862 Hubbard Street, so just a few blocks away. And I was actually at the Valentine Gardens earlier today. Still have some dirt underneath my fingernails and I'm laying a base tan from being out there. And that's probably the most unsafe thing about being out there, to be honest. So I'm very involved in our community in multi different hats that I wear. But a lot of it's surrounding food sovereignty, community gardens. I am an active leader at the Seymour Park Community Food Force and Community Garden. Also help out with the Brown County Community Garden Program and a site leader for the Gray Street plot and an assistant to the organizer for that. So the talk about not having agricultural things in an urban setting, well, we're already doing it in Green Bay, and we have such a demand for that to continue. We have wait lists every year for gardeners. We're looking to continue to expand and sustain very well the Seymour Park Food Forest, hopefully get that into other neighborhoods as well. It's been a lot of great work even for the Conservation Corps, helping promote those type of programs. I've also been involved in school education gardening programs with FoodWise. The program I was most committed to was the Keller Elementary School Garden Program for 5 years, where we were working with inner city youth from multiple cultures, and we were able to sustain and grow that. And it was beautiful to be able to get 5th graders out into the earth to play with worms and everything like that. But it was also appalling that 5th grade was the first time that they got to touch an earthworm. I've tried to be an advocate for continuing to expand things in the city limits, and we have some great movement in that direction, but there's limits to what we can do within the city, you know, in our personal gardens and that sort of thing. So to be able to have something like Valentine Gardens available in a very beautiful atmosphere, I drove in today and it like puts Seymour Garden to shame, actually. And we do a lot of work at Seymour Park to keep it going, to be quite honest. I also am a small business owner. I have a business where I teach wild food education, mental health in nature, herbal ways of using plants. And I can assure you the type of business that the Valentines are doing right now, it's not like something that's going to be bringing in fat stacks of cash. These type of businesses are actually more like nonprofit work, more sustainably growing. They take years and years to get to a capacity to even achieve those huge big vision dreams of like what would be really lovely to have in our community. I think having something like Valentine Gardens grow gradually to like that bigger vision would be such an attractive thing for families that don't want to just leave because everything is expanding. We have nonstop development, but we need to have spaces for that here so that our kids can learn those skills safely guided. I plan along with my partner to be out there this summer, getting dirty, keeping it nice and beautiful for the neighbors, saying hello as they drive by, and trying to create that community space. And I'll support them with everything I got. I really urge you all to consider that. I think any of the concerns brought up about traffic and safety and parking spaces, those are all things that the Valentines are very smart people. They're very kind people. They're going to be able to problem solve it together. But losing something like this in our community, if we were to lose this, like we're not getting it back at this rate, and we really need to get behind it and support it. So thank you for your time.
Your testimony. Questions? Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Flavia Mildenberg. I live in 3305 Pebble Beach Court. It's just a block away from the Valentine's farm. I wasn't planning to talk, but I feel very, I need to talk because when I first moved here 5 years ago, I was so happy that the farm was there. And just to stop there in the summer and just collect some eggs and some produce, it was the highlight of my day. I fully support them. They are neat. The traffic will not they are not going to increase the traffic because actually there is a development that's going to go right there that probably will increase the traffic, not this farm. Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony. Anyone else?
I have my hand raised, but I'm not sure if we can, if that works. So I guess I'll just speak. Okay, okay, thank you. So Roy Downham, I live on 3438 Church. I'm another one of the across the street club. You know, there's a couple things, when I look at, you know, I guess first when I start, I also remember, you know, as a child at Helen Keller Elementary School, which no longer exists, you know, walking home and visiting the fruit stand on the Yankees property. I don't know why I remember that specifically, but one of the gentlemen who spoke, you know, reminded me of some fond days in the 80s. You know, unfortunately, it's not the 80s anymore. And, you know, so I don't want us to confuse the 80s with today. I doubt any council members ran on a slogan of let's bring back the 80s. You know, so like I have a couple issues with this. First of all, I guess I'll start with the good. I love what they're doing. I love the prairie look. I love native plantings. I'm a huge fan of what Justin does over at the, you know, Stone Silo, and he spoke in the last call, you know, and no issues with any of that. I love that look. That's not the issue. It's the commercial nature, you know, and so, you know, this is not a hobby farm. This is in fact a business. I mean, somebody else who spoke earlier talked about being paid with food. Well, as a business, you know, that has to be accounted for. That's a taxable wage. You know, we're denying the city of Green Bay taxpayers their due in that little bit there as well. You know, so that's just not something we can do. Amazon, Costco, they all contribute to a tax base. Not that I want to confuse anything with you know, the big parking lot that is Costco. You know, but this is a business. You know, their website advertises for, you know, $350 or $600 from May through October. You can get weekly food. You know, that's a business. They're bringing in money. This is not just an across the street fruit stand. I have questions on this. You know, their address is on Church on Nicolay. You know, so but the driveway that they have is on Church Road. Church Road is smaller. Church Road is narrower. Church Road is slower. You know, so you know, this presents an issue for those of us who live on Church Road directly across from this driveway, which is now going to be wider. You know, my other questions on this, is this driveway going to be a hard surface? Is it going to be gravel? Is it going to be asphalt? You know, what will the, you know, I know what the ordinances, you know, require. But what is this going to be, you know, on this? Also, when I look at, you know, the events, I think that's been talked about it by several other people. You know, are the events, you know, yes, 12 a year, but this is Wisconsin. It's not 12 a year. It's 12 in May through October. Well, we already have to deal with the Black Sheep. I love the Black Sheep. I go there. I go to their events. The Black Sheep was here as a restaurant when we bought the house. This was not a commercial farm when we bought the house. You know, so that's why we're fighting against. That's one of the reasons why we're fighting against this. And just to be clear, you know, Mark Valentine made $64,000 in his last year as a teacher, and he's quit that job. And according to information published online, you know, he's quit that job to replace this with this income. This is not a small business. This is an income. This is a business that will generate, you know, a significant amount of income and a significant amount of foot traffic, which just does not belong in our neighborhood. As noble as it is, it doesn't belong.
Your 3 minutes have expired, so we could just conclude.
Yep, absolutely. I guess the only other thing I'd like to say is, again, not in favor of it. And everyone I've seen tonight, with the exception of one person, I believe, who's spoken in favor of this, doesn't live in this neighborhood. That's all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for your testimony. Anyone else online or in person? All right, entertain a motion. Your questions or? Sure, yeah.
Questions for verification. I know we've spoken on a couple things. When we talk about drop off and pick up for camp, what does that look like? Does the drop off time, is there a span, or do you see most people dropping off right away, or is there about a hour window? What does that look like?
Yeah, the camps run from 9 to noon. We have only 4 weeks of summer camp, so it's, what is that, 20 days in the summer only. They drop off at, you know, between 8:30 and 9, and then the camp starts, and then the pickup is, you know, noon, and some parents are coming 11:45 to 12:15. So there is a range. One of the things that I had talked about with Alder Grant was this year, especially introducing, making sure that we have like a traffic flow map and instructions for our camp families to make sure that, you know, to stagger it, to make sure that they understand the plan and to make it run more smoothly so that it isn't an issue.
And do you have a lot of siblings or carpooling? You know,
Yeah.
if a parent has 2 or 3 kids, so what would you guess roughly how many cars, if there's 20 campers, would
Yeah,
you say
there's-
it's safer to like 14 or lower
Yeah,
cars?
that sounds accurate. They're usually about 20 kids, and there are several siblings.
Okay, perfect. And again, I know we've talked, if you see a need for more parking spots, would you guys be opposed to adding more as you see the structure of how everything works out?
Absolutely, yeah. I think we're willing to figure out what works. We want to make it work better.
Perfect. And I know someone talked about the size of the stand, and I'm sure it's hard to gauge because I think you drop money. Can you roughly estimate how many people a day come to the stand to pick food up?
Obviously, it fluctuates throughout the year. I mean, there's usually not more than 2 people at a time that are there. And I would say, you know, throughout a day, we might have 10 or 12 people coming throughout the day.
Okay. And then I know the last gentleman talked about the driveway. Is it going to be gravel Or pavement?
No, it, within the
Or pavement,
plan,
sorry.
yeah, within the plan, it says that it should be pavement, asphalt, or, it does allow for permeable pavers, which are a green infrastructure option, but not for gravel.
Perfect. Is there any other points that I missed that you want to clarify with anything that was brought up while you have an opportunity?
One of the things I wanted to mention was that like directly next to our property is a Green Bay Community Garden, which was there before we moved in. So, it's just to the east of our lot line. And there's like, I think, 25 to 30 plots in that garden. That land is owned by the Sisters of St. Francis and then used by the Brown County Community Gardens. So that agriculture has been there in this area, and our property is a historic farm that has been not necessarily operated as a farm, but the house is over 100 years old and was a farm property.
I was going to ask, I didn't know how well you knew the history of that property, and I had heard that it was originally a farm. Was there just a gap of ownership where someone wasn't actually utilizing it as a farm?
Yeah, the owner that we purchased the land or the house from was not using it as a farm. She was mowing, having the land mowed. Some of it was, remain long, like that. But the land had been in her family for quite a number of years, to my understanding. And like her aunt and uncle, I believe, even had farmed that land. So it had been farmed previously and then historically as well.
Okay. Perfect. And it is about 5 acres that you own, right?
Yep, it's
In
just,
Charles County? Okay.
just over 5 acres, which like we were doing some research is, 26 times larger than the average property in Green Bay. So it's a large property for a city lot.
Perfect. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Alder Eck.
Thank you, Mayor. So some of the questions or the concerns were the tools thrown around and things like, kind of, I guess, sounding messy. What are you doing to mitigate that?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to state that like we hear our neighbors and we're listening, and none of them previous to this have come and talked to us about it or expressed concern. So we're not specifically trying to make people upset or do anything that is angering our neighbors. So we hear our neighbors and we are working on it. So we're working on putting things away. You're doing a lot of yard work and you're using a lot of tools, and there's a lot of like, okay, go do this, and so we know we're hearing that we need to do a better job of putting things away. So the high tunnel structure will provide additional storage, which is great, and we will work to make sure that things are put away better so that it's not causing a nuisance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion. Motion to close the floor made by Alder Eck, seconded by Alder Jolie. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The floor is closed. Alder Grant, you pulled the item.
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess we can start with the first amendment that I wanted to offer, which, like I said, was to allow for a temporary bathroom for up to 24 months until they get the full-time ADA bathroom in there. But as the applicant has agreed that it shall be screened by either a masonry wall, fence, berm planting, or a combination thereof, in the forms of a screen at a minimum of 4 feet in height, and not less than 90% opaque on the year-round basis until they get that permanent structure. So it's just I don't know if I do one at a time.
Sure. That one was a mouthful. So
Sorry.
yeah, one at a time. Sounds good. That was seconded by Alder Prophet. Any discussion on that?
And again, this is just to financially be able to do all the things that are required to do on this property.
Good. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that amendment is adopted.
Thank you. And then again, I kind of want to talk about the temporary use permits. Not a lot of residents touched on it. I did hear someone sounded like 12 seemed like too much because of the time frame that they're able to hold these events. Again, as a council, we can cap the number of participants. Again, the applicant has agreed to the parking to be on the property off of the street. So I don't know if I should start with the number or if anybody has any insight.
Maybe we could just go to community economic development.
Yeah.
Click on that and just see if there's any guidance from the department. Director Renier Wake.
You know, right now for temporary use permits, you can get 90 days a year as a maximum amount, but they're defined by event. So it might not be a bad idea because the council can determine how many they'd like to put into the PUD. Might not be a bad idea though to define what kind of events you're kind of looking to do.
And
Would be helpful.
And I apologize, and I probably should have asked you, Valentine's, when you were up. I'm sorry, but I know just from your website and stuff, there's yoga. They've done like sourdough making, soap making, I believe, just a lot of homemade things, farm to table dinners they talked about. So in a scheme of things, it's never usually anything large. And I apologize, I don't know if I can ask the applicant if they have a preference of number of attendees that most of the events see, or what they would like to see. I apologize. This I did not discuss with them yesterday.
Yeah, I think you'd have to probably open the floor. Motion on the floor made by Alder Eck,
Second.
seconded by Alder DeLee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
You guys have it. Floor's open.
So the events that we're talking about for the special use permit are basically what we call adult farm camp. So it's just adult programming, which is different than the kid programming. And we have generally capped our attendance at like 25. So I'd say that it's not going to be a huge number, but yeah, about 25 people would be would be an acceptable number. And anything else?
No, that's perfect. Thank you. Apologize.
Yeah, we've just done it in obviously mostly in the summer since it's all outdoors. Last summer, I think we did maybe 3 a month during the growing season, which is where the 12 came from that Alder Grant and I had talked about.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you again.
Motion to close floor.
Motion to close floor made by Alder Grant, seconded by Alder Eck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Floor is closed. Alder Grant.
Again, yeah, I guess I just would like some discussion amongst us. I do want to be respectful to residents. I do represent this district and I have heard, you know, I'll be honest, I'm not going to win either way with this vote. I have people that support it and that don't. And I would say majority do support their events. They would be very upset to see these adult events go away. And I think what's important to remember about this property is it is unique. It is 5 acres. And while I understand it's R1, this is the same area that we just had the Kosmowski development where people screamed that we are near the country. We have country roads. We are butt up against farms. This does not fit in our neighborhood. So it's kind of weird that 2 weeks ago we were going against this. But anyways, this property strictly does butt up against it, and the history of this property was farmland. So with being able to do events from May to October, and again, a lot of the events are early, they're not late at night, and they would still be subject to city ordinances as far as noise and all those things. And it is a home still, and they are able to have family get-togethers just like all of us are able to. You know, a gathering even for their campers if it's just a come and socialize thing. So I do want people to keep that in mind as well. I mean, I would be comfortable with the 12 events, 25 people, again, with the understanding that all those cars will be on their property. Even with 25 attendees, it's 25 cars. This development will bring way more traffic than that. So I will motion for 12 events, maximum capacity of 25 attendees within a 12-month period.
Is there a second for that? Clerk Jeffries.
Alder Grant, I heard you say that you wanted to also make sure that the parking is off-street. Do you want that to be part of your amendment as well?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a second for that? Sorry. Seconded by Alder Stevens. Discussion on the amendment?
Yes.
Director Renee Wick?
For adult farm camp, we just want to define that. Okay.
Do you want it to be that specific?
Well, I think the activities that fall under the things that were listed, I guess, different from bands. concerts,
Right,
those types of
yeah,
things.
and I
It's
do
more
want to
of a
reassure my residents that it's,
Education.
yeah, it's
classes.
ultimately what they've been doing, and they're doing it the right way now, and they're doing it now. They are aware of the policies, and we're coming together and working as a city to compromise with that.
I heard educational and adult farm camp, which
They're educational adult classes.
camps? Okay. We'll go with that if that's the wish of the author. There's a second for that still. I think Stevens seconded that. Any discussion on it? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that amendment is adopted.
Then I would motion to approve as amended.
Alder Grant makes a motion to approve as amended. Seconded by Alder Hinkfist. Discussion on that. Any more from?
Yeah, I want to cover, I grew up on the east side of town, which Olson Sales was back then with farmlands. We would walk to those properties and the cows would walk right up to us. That is not what the Valentines are asking to do, but I just know now there's a Target there. Costco, that area is insane. I don't even recognize it. We have to remember that in a way, all these farmlands were here first. Cities didn't necessarily come first. These big family farms were here and the city took over in a sense and it expanded out. And I do want to fight for preserving that history and that integrity of what we have left. We don't, again, like I said 2 weeks ago, we don't see houses coming down and a farm going up. We don't see apartments coming down and homes going up. It's going the opposite direction. And this is literally what I was fighting for 2 weeks ago. So I have a hard time not supporting something like this. And one thing I do want to bring up, since we love following the smart growth plan, this area is zoned for medium to high density. Should the Valentines ever leave and a developer come in. So again, I know from experience, be careful what you wish for. Thank you.
Alder Eck?
Thank you, Mayor. And it is it's a very unique situation being right on the edge of town. So they're close enough that they're in the city, but not quite far enough to be, I guess, I still consider it rural. But what I wanted to do was ask if staff could address some things, and I know they were talked about at the Planning Commission, but for those who didn't hear this, specifically that there are animals on the farm, and I know that mostly those type of animals wouldn't be allowed in the city, or at least people would perceive that to be the case.
Question for Director Renee Wig on that.
So I think the PUD calls out that basically we will follow Chapter 6, which is the rules that regard what can be done with animals on the site. And so our department really doesn't handle that. That's handled through animal control through the police department. They have received permits for the animals that they have on site, is my understanding. I'm not sure they can replace them once they pass, according to these permits, but they've gone through all those processes for the animals at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Solar, anything else?
No.
Alder Grant?
Sorry, excuse me, Director Rainier Wig. Can you kind of explain this always was a farm, but was it always zoned as R1? Or did it get changed from rural residential to R1? Do we know the history of this property?
I'm sorry, I don't have that. I'm sorry where it was. I believe it was R1, but
Always, but it was a
rural
farm.
residential at some point.
Okay, I was just curious.
All right, anything else? We have a motion to approve as amended. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that motion has been approved as amended. On to the report of the Finance Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Profit. Items here to be handled separately. Seeing none, all in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that report has been approved. Report of the Park Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Profit and seconded by Alder Eck. Items here to be handled separately. Hearing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have
Mr.
it.
Mayor,
Personnel Committee.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Alder Hutchinson, go ahead.
um, I'm having trouble. It's maybe my computer, but if people don't speak directly into the microphone, it's really hard to hear. So I don't know if things can be changed. I got everything on the max as far as I know. I'm just asking a request if we can maybe make it clear for those of us on Zoom. Thank you.
Yep, no, that's a good note. We will speak into the mics. We are on the report of the Personnel Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Profit. Seconded by Alder DeLee. Items here to be handled separately. Item 4. Any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of the remainder of that report will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of item 4. That was pulled by Alder Presley. Your wish is there.
I would like to make an amendment to allocate 115,000 in ARPA interest funding to staff the program in full through the end of August.
Is there a second for that? Seconded by Alder Profit. Any discussion on the amendment? Alder Presley.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I've talked about this in the press conference before, but this is a group that does really good work for our community and has been doing good work for a number of years. It's especially affected people in my district with the wildlife sanctuary in Bay Beach being there. So I want to see them not just dropped unceremoniously. If we can use some of that ARPA interest funding to gently transition them out of this employment, I think that's going to be the best for them and the best for us, just because we already have investments in plantings. We have projects underway. Stopping it right now doesn't make sense for us, and it doesn't make sense for them. And really, it's I think the right thing to do for the Conservation Corps.
Very good. Thanks for those comments, Alder Presley. And just before we have more discussion, I think there are a few folks who'd like to speak. So we could
motion open the floor.
Motion open the floor made by Alder Eck, seconded by Alder DeLee. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. You guys have it. The floor is open. Ethan Fenlon is our first one. And then next up would be Jim Ecker.
All right. Firstly, I would like to thank everyone in the Green Bay community for the immense amount of support the Conservation Corps has seen, and AmeriCorps in general has seen recently. And I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ethan. I'm an Eagle Scout, UW-Madison graduate, and former member of the Green Bay Conservation Corps. I'm speaking today in hopes that my friends will not become former members as I have. What I have to say is in response to the illegal and unjustified funding cuts to AmeriCorps programs, but it's also about the deeper values we're choosing, or rather failing to uphold. Federal spending has increased by $200 billion in the past 100 days compared to the same time period last year. The eliminations of programs like AmeriCorps, one of the most cost-effective investments in community resilience, is not about budget concerns. We are seeing political motivations masquerading as fiscal responsibility. It's about prioritizing wealthy elites over vulnerable working Americans. AmeriCorps is very transparent to its members that they work with razor-thin budgets. Every single event that the Green Bay Conservation Corps ran during my term of service relied heavily on the support and generosity of Green Bay citizens and local businesses. We make it work on a budget of $0. You cannot make it more efficient than that. These decisions are not being made by democratically elected leadership, but by unelected officials operating within the executive branch of our government, who violate congressional approval, undermining democracy, and setting a dangerous precedent. It reflects a larger problem of political dysfunction and lack of accountability at the top levels of our federal government. But to understand the real impact of these cuts, you have to look beyond numbers. I recall one day walking into our break room and seeing a stack of folded papers. My curiosity pulled me forward to snatch them and investigate. But the strangely proportioned stick figure and tree scrawled in brown ink and crayon informed me that these were indeed important documents. So I left my sticky fingers and curiosity unsated. The stack of folded papers turned out to be a Bible of thank you cards from the children at Red Smith Elementary. These children were expressing gratitude towards the Green Bay Conservation Corps for the extensive invasive species removal and trail maintenance done at an adjacent park. They were grateful that we had removed the evil buckthorn and shared how our work had made walks with their teacher much more enjoyable. People don't sign up to serve for the paycheck, and as someone who has received the paycheck, I can tell you that they would be pretty stupid if they did. They do it out of purpose, out of care for their communities. They do it for the children who go to Red Smith and all the children like them in America and beyond. They do it so these kids will have a future that is better than the present, and because they believe in something bigger than themselves, something bigger than the republic that is now seeking to strangle them. It's important to understand that money is a tool, not the master. Money, when used with wisdom and care, can support many great things. Yet in a consumer society, we act like money rules us, rather than using it to build something better. A carpenter is not ruled by his hammer. He uses it with great skill and efficiency, following correct measures to build staircases, bookshelves, and door frames. A talented carpenter can craft wonders that will support others for generations. Yet we are living in a world where the hammer is being stolen out of the carpenter's hands by his foreman, a man who already owns more hammers than all the carpenters combined.
Sir, your 3 minutes has expired.
Yep.
Let's conclude.
Leaving fewer homes to be rebuilt after disasters and fewer roofs to be supported by their work. Now we must choose to act and protect the vulnerable, and to use these resources we have to create a more just, beautiful, and functional society. That is not idealism, that is service. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your testimony. Any questions? All right, thank you, sir. Jim Eckert.
Hi, I'm Jim Ecker of 2872 Nicolay Drive. My wife and I have moved to the area a few years ago and got involved in some of the Conservation Corps cleanups, both at Joliet Park and at the Red Smith Woods. And just wanted to mention that, number one, the work that's being done is important. Clearing out some of the invasive species clearly hasn't been done in some time, and some of these things really can make a visible difference. Secondly, the education that the young people get that are involved in the Conservation Corps, or anybody who is, whether they're young or not, is valuable, both for their growth as an individual, learning about nature, and then also working with others. And then thirdly, the community building that the Conservation Corps engenders is important, because people like me that are new to the community got involved, met neighbors, met people, talked to a lot of people that I wouldn't have talked to, learned about areas in the city. So I would encourage you to support bridge funding. It sounds like there's a chance that the administration's moves may get overturned, and this would buy us some time in case that it does, and allow us to complete some work this summer, and hopefully, if it does get overturned, possibly extend it further. Thank you.
Just a reminder, we don't have applause in the gallery, but appreciate the support. Anyone else who'd like to speak on the item from the gallery?
Hello, my name is Lindsay Larson. I live at 832 Marshall Avenue. I would just like to second all the comments that have been made at the press conference and today about the Conservation Corps. I was one of the first members in the first cohort, came back from my master's program, didn't expect to be in that position after completing my master's degree, but I found a lot of great things in the Conservation Corps, and my background is in environmental studies, ecology, everything. But I think what hasn't been touched on as much is the people aspect of the Conservation Corps. So while it is conservation focused, focusing on our environment, invasive species, everything that's been talked about, there's also a huge amount of community building that's been going on. I moved back here. I'm from Shawano, so I grew up not too far from here, but didn't know anybody or anything in Green Bay. And so I joined the Conservation Corps. I got to meet some really great people, really got connected to the community. And I think it's really important when, we're not a huge city, right? To get young people involved in the community and get them to have a reason to be connected so that, when they graduate from GB, they have a reason to stay because they know people, they have connections, they can get jobs here. I think retaining young people in cities like ours is just incredibly important. And beyond that, from my personal experience, I met two of my closest friends that I now still meet with, we're close with. I met through the Corps, including Maria, who's the leader of it. So I've been following their progress even after I left. And just to have people that I know now, to feel like I have a community here, that's incredibly important. And even beyond that, through my work at the Conservation Corps, we worked at Bay Beach. I eventually ended up meeting my now husband, who's a park ranger there. So obviously I have a lot of fond memories of my time. And I have, I live here now because of meeting my now husband. I moved to Milwaukee. We ended up getting engaged. And so I'm back here really because of my time in the Conservation Corps. And just again, getting to see the great work, getting to come back and volunteer, getting to meet the people that I worked with, getting to meet the new members, and just seeing the passing of the torch, again, is just really cool to see. And I think this work deserves to continue on. And hopefully we can continue the funding at a federal level. Obviously that's beyond the scope of here, but if we can at least buy time, we provide that opportunity that we can continue this program. And hopefully give this opportunity to more young people and anybody really in the community who wants to be a part of it. So thank you.
It's your testimony. Feel free just to approach if you'd like to speak.
Hi, everyone. Apologies for those of you who've already heard this speech, but I see there's some new faces, so I wanted to reshare my speech with you all. I want to thank you for being here and for amplifying our voices.
Just your name and address.
Oh, yes, I'm getting to that. That's the next line. And for fighting for us. My name is Kaylee Kafura. I'm a crew member of Green Bay Conservation Corps. It's quite possible some of you maybe didn't even know we existed or the work we do until this very moment. I'm hoping to put a face to our name as these devastating federal cuts led to our work being promptly halted last week when our funding was cut overnight. Green Bay Conservation Corps is a boots on the ground field crew of mostly young folks. You can see them sitting there in the back, who are stewarding your public lands, parks, and wildlife sanctuary right here in your city. We're the ones removing thousands of invasive species and restoring the land to its native habitat. We're mulching your trails and rain gardens, installing biofilters to mitigate flooding and improve water quality. We're surveying our frog populations in the dead of night, hand planting miles of food sources for our pollinator corridor, and building relationships through volunteer events. For me, serving with our crew has reconnected me to where I grew up. Through this work, I've experienced a deeper appreciation for the ecological beauty of this place and the broader community that is working to protect it. Being a member of the Conservation Corps means that I have the opportunity to be a part of a larger ecosystem of people, making a tangible difference every single day. History continues to show us the consequences when society does not value the health of our environment, but today we have the opportunity to learn from those mistakes and invest in this really important work. When we see the land as a community to which we belong, we may begin to use it with love and respect. I hope that our decision makers here feel compelled to take action after hearing our stories and knowing our impact. I hope that we collectively refuse what we know is wrong and fight to protect what matters. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your testimony, but we still need your address.
Is that required?
Yeah, it is.
I don't want the haters to find me. 2457 Shady Oak Drive, Green Bay.
Thank you so much.
My name is Mark Valentine. I live at 3026 Nicolay Drive. And first of all, I want to say thank you for the support and the leadership of our city leaders here. I want to share that idea that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and the work that the Conservation Corps does is beautiful. It beautifies our city and our shared spaces. At 3026 Nicolay Drive, it's a short walk to the Red Smith School Forest, and we've seen it get cleaned up. And this time of year, it's beautiful. I'd highly recommend coming and seeing all the trout lilies that are growing. It's like a carpet, and those trout lilies have been there for, I don't know, thousands of years, and we're at risk of being overgrown by the buckthorn and the honeysuckle that they came in and removed. If you guys need any goats to help remove some of that stuff, I know a guy. So I would encourage, people see them out working, and it gives the students of Red Smith an idea that they can get out of the classroom and have jobs and make a difference in their community. When you work in the ground with plants, it puts you in that place. It becomes a place that you connect with and you belong to. So I really appreciate the work that you do, and I hope that you can continue to do it for the city of Green Bay for as long as possible. Thank you.
Your testimony. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Holly Buell-Nowakowski, and I live at 2215 Baston Street. I just want to echo those same ideas and really build on the fact that this is such an educational value for our community. As an educator here in Green Bay, we have had students at our school be able to volunteer and work with the Conservation Corps and just get hands-on learning that you cannot get in a classroom. We've had our students, I have a senior right now who is able to use the knowledge from Maria for many of her projects and learn about what she wants to explore in her future. Again, that's not something we can easily replicate in a classroom. You can only get that when you get out in nature and you work with people hands-on in community. And we're teaching these students not only about the environment, but about that aspect of community, about volunteering, about the importance of coming together to make our city a better space to live. So I really would encourage you to consider this. Obviously, we've mentioned before that this is a Band-Aid. Ideally, we would have funding much longer than this, but as long as possible, we want these people here working in our community. So please consider extending that funding throughout the summer. Thank you.
Kathy LaFay, 1731 East Shore Circle.
We're gonna have to get you a chair.
Yeah,
Right
yeah.
up here.
Maybe I'll come back. I don't know. Not Joey, no, he's good. No, I'd have to move and I'm not gonna move, sorry. The reason too, I want to talk again, and this also goes back to the Valentine Farm. There are studies showing that people who get outside, children, connect with nature, it improves their outlook. We have so many young people now who are depressed, who are anxious. Pandemic did a lot. And this type of projects, both of these, they help that mentality for these young people. I think it's very important that we do this. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I did have, oh, no, go ahead, you stay.
Yeah, we'll do one more in person and then we'll go online.
Flavia Mildenberg, 3305 Pebble Beach Court. Please, I come before you to support the Conservation Corps. My house is across the bay. We have done so much work there, but it's just halfway. So I'm not going to get Maria out of this because we want to volunteer and make that park, Juliet Park, a beautiful park. We want to enjoy the shore, and we are sick of the invasive species there, and we appreciate them here in our community. Please support them.
Thanks so much for your testimony. All right, online.
All right, Roy Downham, 3438 Church, still. I only, I mean, maybe this isn't the place to discuss. First of all, AmeriCorps is awesome. I see Joliet Park every day. I love the work they're doing over there. It's fantastic. And it's an absolute travesty that some of these funding cuts that are happening, like what Ethan had mentioned it's despicable. But we're not here to debate that. My question is, and the recommended funding to bring this through the summer, and maybe this isn't where the question gets asked, but where do we anticipate that it's got to come from somewhere, right? So if we're going to give $135,000 to somebody, who are we taking it away from? Or does this money exist in some sort of general use fund? I'm just curious on that. And then also as a side note, if I've submitted a form online, if I'd like to, I'm so enamored by this story of conservation. I've been looking online, reading about them since Ethan first started talking. If I'd like to donate to their cause, what's the best way to do that to make sure it gets used in Green Bay? So maybe Ethan can just answer that. I hate to waste anyone's time here, but I'm so enamored by what this young man spoke about.
Yep, appreciate the testimony. We'll try to answer both questions when we get back to discussion among council. We typically don't do Q&A with those who are testifying, but appreciate the comments. That's right. Any other comments from the gallery?
Hey everyone, it's Ahmad Rivera Wagner, 617 South Quincy Street. I just wanted to make sure that we added that this is an incredible program, and this body has already shown its support over the last 2.5 years of the incredible work that can happen when we all come together. I did want to emphasize that the program isn't just for young people. Folks have served from 18 years old to actually 70, and that AmeriCorps generally is something that serves whether you are young or young at heart. And that's one of the amazing gifts, that there's nothing more patriotic than service, and there's nothing as service-centered as AmeriCorps. And so you have the opportunity to kind of be supporters of the patriotism of people who love Green Bay. The second is that not only diversity in age, but location. People came from all over the country to serve here. So yes, we have our locals, but we have people from California, we have people from Colorado, I want to say some other states. There's a bunch of other ones. And the truth is, they love coming to Green Bay to do this incredible work. But because of this national politics, people who may not be able to make their rent, who may not be able to make their car payment, who are worried about childcare or access, or who are giving money to their grandkids because of national politics now don't get to be able to do that. And they got 24 hours notice. You have the opportunity not only to correct the cruelty, but to do something that you do all the time, which is be a Green Bay neighbor. And we take care of people in this community. We can't solve every problem here. We can't fix the national politics, but what we can do is create a bridge over troubled waters for this moment, so folks can finish out their service to this community that they love, that they're showing up for, and they're doing it for us. I know that we can do that together. I know that I have faith in this body, but I wanted to make sure that we put an emphasis that there are people of all different backgrounds, from all different walks of life, who showed up here to serve, and because of national politics are being left behind. And there's an opportunity for us to be the Green Bay people that I know that we are, which is to take care of each other. Thank you.
Your testimony. Anyone else? All right, entertain a motion. Motion to close the floor made by Alder Prophet and seconded by Alder Stevens. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We will go to Alder Prophet.
I had some questions jotted down before, and I'm thankful to at least one member of the public who was thinking the same lines I was. I was able to listen into the press conference, so I kind of know the question to some of these, but I think it's important to get it out in the open. So 2 questions for staff. First one for Director Ditchite. I believe Alder Presley's amendment was for $110,000. Is that going to fully support, do you feel, the programming through the end of August?
I believe it's 115.
Oh, 115.
Director Ditchite.
Yes, correct. The ask was 115,000, and that would run it through the end of August with 3 full-time city staff members and up to 13 AmeriCorps members.
Okay, thank you. And then I believe the second portion of that motion was indicating it's coming out of ARPA interest. So my second question is for Director Ellenbecker. If you could just give us a balance of what our current ARPA interest is sitting at. If you're able. And I can go into some of my comments too.
Can
while
find it
she-
in my email probably.
Yeah, I can just go into my comments while she looks for that. So I'll just say I really have a disdain when federal politics come into the city council chambers. I don't enjoy it, but I appreciate the foresight that Mr. Mayor had and his city staff when they gave us a heads up a few finance committees back to indicate there was potentially $49 million worth of federal dollars that were up in the air. So I hope this entire body kind of got their wheels turning on, okay, what's going to be our move when that happens, if that happens. And we all crossed our fingers and hoped that it wouldn't, but here we are. I think if I know the answer that's going to come back about what our ARPA interest balance is at, I couldn't support this amendment more. We're losing federal dollars and the ARPA interest dollars stemmed from federal dollars. So to replace federal dollars with federal dollars makes perfect sense. The Conservation Corps is something that I appreciate the comments where you're like, you might not have seen, the work that we do. I didn't until last year. They were hosting different walks throughout parks. So I went to the one in Joannes Park, and there is so much work that this group does that our neighbors have no idea why that's so clean, why our waterways are so gorgeous, why that's the Conservation Corps, around our neighborhood association signs, some of the cleanup that happens there. I know that's the Conservation Corps. So I can't extend my gratitude enough to the work that you all do. And I really hope this body gets behind supporting this. And I'm really, I'm upset that we're having to have this conversation because you don't deserve it. But I'm happy to support this. So if that was enough rambling.
Was I 1.5 million, Director?
Yes, that is correct. Revenue less anything that's been approved, we are sitting at $1,507,508,000.
Okay, thank you. So again, my previous comments stand. I mean, we have over $1.5 million and we're talking about 115,000 to support 3 full-time employees and 13 part-time through the end of August. The work they do is phenomenal and this is worth it.
Thanks, Alder. And just to kind of respond to one of the questions that was posed, it's unallocated right now, right? So we have 1.5 million that's unallocated for another purpose. Just real quick, Director Ditchite, can you also respond to the question about donations?
Yes, for anyone in the public that would like to donate towards this cause, you can contact the Green Bay Parks, Recreation and Forestry Department directly. Ask for the Parks Director, which is me. But ultimately, all donations would go directly to the city of Green Bay and a check could be written out to the city of Green Bay.
Thanks, Director. Additional questions, comments, Alder Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. Director Ditchite, could you just, one of the things I want to be sure that we're not just saying, hey, let's authorize a program. I want us to understand what's behind the program. So we've been given some examples, but could you talk a little bit about maybe some of the projects that you had scheduled or were anticipating to complete this year?
Yeah, and I think Maria could probably answer that better than I can, but I can give you a few of them for reference. So we do have quite a few prairie plants that are sitting in our greenhouse that are ready to go in the ground. If we don't get Conservation Corps members out there to do that planting, we would have to probably donate those plants to somebody else who could use them if we can't plant them. I've been told it's about $60,000 worth of plants in various greenhouses. So that would be one of them. We do have some other initiatives with other prairie plantings that are going on in the city. Perkins Park is one of them, where we're going to try to do some initiatives there also. I don't know, Maria, I don't know if you would want to come up.
If you just want to grab a
that.
chair on the end here, we don't need to open the floor because Zato works for the city of Green Bay, but anything that you'd like to add to what Director Ditchite was saying?
Yeah, just to add, because I know there's a few numbers being thrown around on what native plants we have. So in our operated greenhouse at the Bay Beach Wildlife Sanctuary, we have over 7,000 plants growing. If you were to purchase those at a retail cost, that's anywhere from $2 to $5 per plant. In addition, we have a partnership with the Green Bay Botanical Garden, who have grown nearly 10,000 native plants for our pollinator corridor project that are ready to go in the ground. So that's an additional, cost that we would lose out that benefit if we did not have the people to put those in. Some additional big projects that we had planned for this summer is continuing our invasive removals. So I had mentioned in the press release, restoration work is not a one-time, you treat it, you pull the weed, you have to stay on top of it for usually anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So we have some very critical areas where we've worked for, 3 springs, removing garlic mustard. And if we were to wait just one season, garlic mustard produces millions of seeds, and those seeds stay viable in the soil for nearly 7 years. So if we're not able to stay on top of that, we would see a drastic turn in those areas that are 50 to 60% through restoration would drop back down to zero very quickly.
Thank you. And Maria, real quickly too, when you think about the work that you've done over the last couple of years, would you say that's been concentrated in one part of the city, or would you say it's every part of the city has benefited from that?
We have been to every park in the city. So all 68 parks, 13 greenways, the wildlife sanctuary, and Bay Beach, whether that be a volunteer cleanup effort, an invasive removal, trail maintenance, an educational trail walk. I'm really happy that you brought that up because that's one of our less known programs where we operate a series in the summer called Discover Your Parks, where we go to different parks every month and lead educational tours. So we've been on every park. We've also surveyed our parks for invasive species, habitat, identifying where we have these key critical species that, are on the verge of being lost, and being able to best use our time. So yes, it's been spread out across the city.
Thank you. And for those who know me, know that I rarely ask a question I don't know the answer to. And that's exactly what I knew you would say. And of course, it just reinforces the point that this program has impacted almost, it has impacted every one of our districts in a positive way. And while I've seen some of the work that you've done, I think back to an example in the Tank Park neighborhood in my district. Mayor, I think you were there too. We had a nice opportunity with the Lieutenant Governor, along with the AmeriCorps members, to clean snow off of sidewalks that had been piled up and was not taken care of, and to create, a safer pedestrian access for members of our community and some of our underserved neighborhoods. And so I know you do a lot of work even beyond some of the plantings that we've talked about. It goes into the winter months as well, and really reaches into our neighborhood. So thank you for the work that you do. I'm certainly not a fan or a supporter of some of the wholesale cutting that's been going on at the federal level, but I also recognize that I'm not here to opine on federal politics, and we're elected to solve local problems. And I think we do have a local problem that's in front of us right now. And to me, this is more about a smart business decision and a discussion of leverage. And the program has been highlighted, significantly underpays folks, right? It's more of a stipend rather than a salary or wage. And so I don't know the exact ratio, but I'll use this for the sake of discussion. If we spend $100,000, we get a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 worth of labor in return. That's a smart business decision. I don't know who wouldn't do that. And I think Alder Profit, you kind of alluded to something that I was going to mention, and that is, of course, the complete irony that the reduction of federal spending is going to be backfilled potentially by this body here with federal funding. Maria and I have had the pleasure of working together, a couple of meetings around the concept of a community core to really kind of serve some of our downtown areas, to work with our unhoused, and to do a number of other programs that right now city staff is just, they can't complete. And I think the unfortunate part of this is we were targeting more of that next term, September and beyond. I do think it's really important for us that even despite this funding here, that I mentioned this at the committee level, I do think we need to take advantage of this opportunity to perhaps do some crowdfunding to maybe support this program beyond. In fact, since we don't know what's going to happen at the federal level, I would like us to maybe spend some of that administrative time on taking a look at what it would take to build a local program that could be sustained with local dollars, even if the federal funding does not come back. There is one amendment, however, that I would like to offer, and I think I would just offer as amendment on your amendment, and that is, I would make a motion to amend that we would discontinue the use of ARPA interest if the federal funding is restored.
Alder Johnson offers that amendment to Alder Pressley's amendment. It was seconded by Alder Eck. More discussion on that, Alder Johnson? Or?
No, I mean, it's just, otherwise, if we allocate it now, it stays there, right? So this is just, the federal funding is restored, we don't need it, so I'd rather have it kind of restored back to where it sits right now.
Understood. All right, any discussion on that amendment specifically? We've got Hinkfist and Eck in the queue.
When I first was elected and learned about AmeriCorps, I thought, wow, Green Bay is really lucky to have this program because to get an AmeriCorps volunteer, there's a lot that you go through to be even eligible for that. So to have AmeriCorps and have it grown like we've had, and now the rug pulled out from under our feet, I totally support the amendment of Joey or Alder Presley and Alder Johnson. And if we can look at keeping them longer, I have Haines Raw in my district, and that is a park that's woods and Phragmites and all those invasive species that they have been working on to get out for years, and we can't stop. So a lot of the stuff that people don't get credit for, but I always look at the AmeriCorps as I learned about it as the Peace Corps of America. So something that we need to continue to grow and keep.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Eck, then Alder Hutchison.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think that we actually kind of have a unique opportunity in the fact that there is funds available. If we didn't have funds available, we wouldn't even, be discussing this right now. And it's unfortunate. But I do think that we made a commitment to the AmeriCorps program, and because of that, I would support it through to the end. And I'm going to add this in there because you added Hinesra, but I did talk to Maria about John Muir Park. Actually, the Wednesday before we found out about the program, the cuts on Monday. But so that was something that hoping to get paths put in or restore the paths. So there's a lot of opportunities for them to improve our parks and other areas, but that's just one example. So thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Hutchison.
Thank you, Mayor. Two things. One, I saw a group of AmeriCorps workers in a coffee shop downtown, and I could recognize them, and I thanked them for their work. And I doggone it, I should have bought their coffees. I just should have, but I'm a politician. I hold my money close. But having said that, I worked at Baird Beach for Baird Creek for 4 hours, cutting and painting buckthorn, and I thought, wow, I did a lot today and everything. And then the next week, AmeriCorps came through. It was night and day. Those people work. So having known what they do, having seen what it looks like after they come through, it's amazing. So I also am going to support these amendments and this vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Any other folks who'd like to speak on Alder Johnson's amendment to Alder Presley's amendment? Alder Grant.
Thank you, Mayor. And we kind of touched on this at the personnel meeting too, not only for the community fundraising campaign, but also just community involvement. If we can really do a hard marketing approach with community involvement, knowing that, the reality is state and federal funding is never a guarantee. This program was set for 3 years. We could have been at a crossroad in 3 years. So if we can really drive community awareness, and because I've seen what happened at Red Smith Park when we came together and worked on the woods. So if we can really try to draw not only funding in, but if we can double that crowd, I mean, Valentine's were there planting trees, and so we do have more work to do, but I would love to see that number double. And I think every time we do something, it naturally grows. But if we can really advertise out of this, and then from that, we might even get some more donations. So I just really want, like you said, administrative time to kind of really promote this if we can, please. But I do support this.
Thanks, Alder Grant. And I remember being at Red Smith Woods in 2022 with
Mhm.
I think both of our families. I didn't think all the buckthorn would ever get removed, given
And
how
all
many
limbs were
how
intact
much
with
we
our
took out
kids.
that day. But yeah, great to hear that all that work's been done. I gotta check it out. Alder Weary on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had, it's very important as to make sure Colburn Park is included in your work.
Sorry, go ahead.
Perfect. In 2022, we planted nearly 100 trees, and we go back. We've removed all the buckthorn at Colburn, and we go back every spring for that garlic mustard. That's one of the sites that we want to keep going because it has great spring ephemeral plants, and we want to protect
Done a wonderful
those.
job. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And much like Elder Johnson said, you never ask a question without knowing the answer. Thank you. And I had to mention Colburn one last time. So, I also support it. You know, we have to be careful sometimes when we handle these things on a local level that we don't, you know, when we're talking, you know, disparage the president of the United States and then maybe divide us when, you know, I support this project. I support our president. It's as simple as that. So thanks.
Any other comments? All right. All in favor of Alder Johnson's motion amendment will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That amendment has been adopted. So we have a motion to amend the amendment, which was offered by Alder Presley. Well, now we have the motion to approve the amendment as amended. And then yes. Motion was made by Alder Eck and seconded by Alder Prophet. Any discussion on that? All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Entertain a motion to approve as amended. Alder Johnson amended. Motion to approve as amended made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder DeLee. On that, Alder Johnson.
Yeah, I just kind of one final thought that I wanted to wrap up with. I mean, two actually. Maria, I know you and I are going to continue to meet because I do think it's important that while this funding, if approved, would take us through the end of August, I do think it's important that we continue to think about a long-term funding strategy because I don't want to see this program go away if the federal funding ceases to exist. And I do want to find a way locally, and I'm willing to help be a supporter and a partner to work through that with you. The second thing, and I want to reiterate something I shared at committee with our AmeriCorps members, and you know, what's happening at the federal level is confusing. It's rapid, and oftentimes people just you know, it becomes very challenging to react and understand. But that has no reflection of the value that we see in you as a community, and I know that at the federal level, at least, there's just a real concerted effort to force some of these expenses down to the local level, and that's where I think I want to solve our problems, right? And that's that recognition, I guess, that I want to commit to this program because I do think it's important for our community. But more importantly, I do think it honors our commitment to all of you and recognizes the work that you've done for our community because it is seen, as you've seen here from multiple alders who have recognized what you've done in our communities and neighborhoods. And so it is seen, as it appreciated. And I hope that we can keep as many of you as possible continuing to do this work. And I know you have other opportunities that you can consider in times of uncertainty. And I think this is one small gesture that we can make to make it a little less uncertain, to give you that assurance that you can be here with the city of Green Bay through the end of August, continuing to do these wonderful projects for which you are so passionate. We love to see that passion. We want to support it.
Thanks, Alder. Anything else? All right, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been approved as amended. Next on to report of the Sustainability Commission. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Presley. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Equal Rights Commission. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Presley. Discussion here. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Informational item, municipal court report from March 2025 in the packet. Next, we've got committee of the whole, and I'll go to Director Ditchett on that.
Yes. Let me just find that on the agenda here. So we have two items on committee of the whole. Both of these are related to the same project. So we're doing a lighting project at the ball field at Perkins Park. It's currently under construction. There's some electrical work that needs to be done by Wisconsin Public Service that is very time sensitive. And we didn't receive this proposed easement and cost estimate from them until it was too late to put it on an agenda for last week. So I'm requesting two different approvals, one for each agenda item. The first one is to approve the easement, which would allow them to do that electrical work within the park. And item two is to approve the moving forward with hiring WPS to do the work itself for $62,478. And is time sensitive.
Very good. Thanks, Director. Comments on, let's see, let's just go to, unless you want to suspend the rules. All right, Alder Stevens makes motion to suspend the rules, take up both items with one roll call vote. Second by Alder Eck. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Motion to approve made by Alder Eck and seconded by Alder DeLee. Discussion on that motion. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and those items are both approved. On to resolutions. Alder Prophet makes a motion to suspend the rules, take up these resolutions with one roll call vote, and that was seconded by Alder Stevens. Discussion on that. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Motion to adopt made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder DeLee. Any discussion there? Seeing none, we'll use the board. All right. Resolutions pass unanimously. On to ordinances first reading. Okay, so motion to approve item one. Advance item one, made by Alder Prophet. Is there a second for that? Second by Alder Stevens. Any discussion on item one? All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. That has been advanced. Item two.
First and final, since we were unanimously supporting it, they have a farm stand that they are waiting to put out, and I don't see us waiting for 2 weeks if we're all in agreement with this.
So Alder Grant makes a motion to suspend the rules and adopt this ordinance on a first and final basis. That was seconded by Alder Johnson. Discussion on that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Sorry. Alder Hutchinson, I just motioned to suspend the rules into first and final reading since we were unanimously supporting this.
Thank you very much. Now I heard you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and the reason being is they have a farm stand that they're waiting to put out, and they would have to wait 2 weeks if, just for us to approve it again.
Okay, very good.
All right.
And as amended, I apologize.
So that motion was made to, first we need to handle suspension. So suspension of the rules to adopt this on a first and final basis. That was seconded by Alder Johnson. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Now, yep, Alder Grant makes a motion to approve the ordinance as amended, seconded by Alder DeLee. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll use the board. That too is unanimous. Petitions and communications. Adjournment. Alder Weary makes a motion to adjourn, seconded by Alder Hinkfist. All in favor say aye. Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.